except, and this is the big news, for Laurent Jalabert, the world #1, one of the pre-race favourites, struggling and losing as much as 4.5 minutes on that first mountain. Jalabert dropped away from the main group as soon as the climb started, and Jalabert certainly already out of contention. The first break of the day, the first move from one of the big names, came from Bjarne Riis, third on the race last year, attacking on the way down the Madeleine, with a lead of as much as 1 minute and 20 seconds, but picked up by the main group. And then a breakaway by 3 riders, the German Udo Bolz, the Australian Patrick Jonker, and the Italian Alberto Elli. And that breakaway with a lead of as much as 1.5 minutes at one point. The race favourite Miguel Indurain looking in good shape, surrounded by his Benesto teammates as they hit the second climb of the day, the Courmet de Roseland. And then an attack by the German Bolz, leaving Elli and Jonker standing. The attack from Bolz quickly building up a useful lead. It came at 15 kilometers from the top of the climb of the Roseland. Laurent Duffield of Switzerland was the first move from the group which was called the Indurain group. Duffield making his move, trying to catch Bolz. By now, Jonker and Elli were already in trouble. As they went over the top of the Roseland, Bolz was leading by 1 minute and 55 seconds. Ahead of Indurain and company, Duffield was 40 seconds ahead. And then emotional scenes, the yellow jersey of Stefan Hulot about to drop out of the race. Hulot suffering with a knee injury, crying his eyes out on the Roseland. Hard to pull out when you have the yellow jersey on your shoulders, but his race was over. Bolz was still leading, and then heart-stopping scenes as the Belgian Johan Bruneel vanished over the edge of the mountain. We feared the worst, but he was miraculously unhurt, though he did lose his bike. And as they went to the foot of the ride up to Les Arcs, Bolz led by 45 seconds from Duffield, 1 minute 20 ahead of Indurain, 2:20 ahead of Alex Zülle, who had also fallen. But then, as you'll find out, quite amazing scenes over the final kilometres. After the break, we join our commentators, David Duffield and Stephen Roche. Believe me, it's worth staying around for.
The devil is in full flight yet again, and the devil has had a devil of a job today with the race, because he's been decimating riders left, right and centre. That's the fellow by the always turns up with his funny bicycles, and believe you me, the race today has had the devil of a day. Bad weather conditions, crashes, and goodness knows what else. What a day we've had, Stephen. And so, with Udo Bolz then setting up on the final climb of the day.
Zülle is coming back, Dave. Zülle is almost back onto the back of the cars again, so he should be joining up with the group Indurain very, very shortly.
And here we have Berzin and this group. They're beginning to take off their raincoats now, their little racing capes, and getting ready for the ascension of the final climb of the day. Udo Bolz.
Just the final little bit of rest before the last stop.
Here we are, and off he goes. The man has been mistaken for Mr. Museo, which I'm terribly sorry indeed, because away goes the... Mafni must be trying the old 1-2 here, because Fernandez Gin is on his way off now, the champion of Spain, and that's really exciting. The Colombians upstairs on the commentary point, they started leaping around and making a lot of noise, and the battle really now commences.
Of course, this is great, of course, for Orlando and for Rominger, because if Rominger can get across them, we keep saying this, but eventually it'll work for somebody. Like, but the top men of the peloton, like the Romingers or Zulles, they always like having one man in front. So to do attack, they've got someone to actually leap for across too and work with them when they get across. Of course, at the moment, Laurent Duffield being a teammate of Richard Virenque, it means that Virenque has one man in the front, which will help him a lot if he can only get across to him.
And I start this climb then, let me take the opportunity of reminding you about what has happened so far during the race. If you just joined us live on Eurosport on this Saturday afternoon, good afternoon to you. If you're watching it in our recorded program in the evening, then good evening, or tomorrow morning, good morning, whatever the case may be. The position is that we're climbing up the final mountain of the day to the finish at Les Arcs, which comes after 199 kilometres of racing today since they set off at Chambéry this morning. The whole race blew apart at the seams as they climbed up the Col de Madeleine. The action was really underway right from the very start, and although Chris Boorman was able to hang on until 8 kilometres from the top, he got dropped off. But before Boorman got dropped, the story of the day was Jalabert had been dropped off, and the pressure was on as the yellow jersey was staying with the group, which included all the people you see on your screen now. Elie Berzin, Manuel Ferron, Duffield, Akimov, the whole crowd of riders were going as
What's happening here, Dave? What's happening here? The Telecom rider is riding both in the front. Here we have Telecom going again, and he's doing it for Reese, of course. But
Okay, I'll keep an eye on the screen while I revamp what's happened today, you see, for people who just come in late. Well, I'm sure the British viewers won't know what happened. Eunice gets caught back here now. At the moment on this race, we've got Bolt up in front, about 2 minutes ahead. Duffield is in no man's land, this group here. And it all started really on the climb of the Col de Madeleine. Hulot was quite interesting, actually, the yellow jersey, because he hung on the climb until they got to about 4 kilometres from the top. And there were 30 men in the lead, and 3 kilometres from the top then, the position was the Maillot Jaune was back 45 seconds off the front. Boorman's group was 1 minute 30. As more attacks are coming here, this is
Hamburger
having a go on left-hand side. Sorensen and Bogart were 2 minutes back. Brochard 250. Jalabert was 250 back on that group. They went through 3 kilometres ago. Over the top of the climb of the Col de Madeleine, the position was that the group containing Miguel Indurain, about 30 riders in all, went over the top. Hulot's back at 143. Boorman 259. Jalabert 426 back. And on the descent, a fellow called Foix fell off. On the descent too, the yellow jersey rejoined the Indurain group. And as they went down the drop off the Madeleine, Reese attacked of all things and gained the lead at 1 minute 15 seconds at the bottom of the climb. And then his team manager told him to ease back and wait for the main group to come. And that's exactly what did happen. Jalabert never got back in, but Boorman did get back into the Indurain group, but no sooner he got back in than they started the other climb of the day up toward the Rosland, and that's when Boorman got shelled out and was eventually overtaken by Jalabert. And one by one, the men that had been in that leading group were blown out until now we've got about a dozen men here on the road now. Let's recap then up in front. It's Bolts at the moment, then Dufo, then this fellow Hamburger. Just behind him, the group is including such riders as Veronk, Rominger, Berzin, Luttenberger, LeBlanc, and Olano, Fernandez, Gines, and Reese. So that's the main group behind this fellow here. He's now third on the road. Anyone new, Stephen? Sorry about that, just recapping the people
nothing else to do. Apart from homing, Hamburger is actually ahead of Bolts on Gisse, but in between them you have Diffo. So if it comes up, if they can stay together forever, any more than 40 seconds ahead of Indurain, Diffo that gets a jersey. But and somehow, some reason or another, I don't believe that this group will stay away. I think that when Indurain gets launched, when he gets close to the finish, he will accelerate and try and just eliminate some of his main rivals before tomorrow's time trial.
Well, the other news, if you just tuned in or listening to our recorded version and didn't see the action further back, I've been giving you some of the positions of the attacking and what the gaps were back to people like Jalabert and Boorman and so on. But we had some serious crashes apart from the one on the Madeleine when Foix fell off and got back on again. He wasn't too badly hurt, I don't think, but we saw Johan Bruno go right over the edge of a ravine, drop down the other side, and he climbed back out with his bike, not too badly injured. Also, Zuller crashed badly, got back on his bike and was helped back to the Indurain group, and no sooner he get back there, then he took off his racing cape and in so doing fell off his bike as well. So bad luck to Zuller. He's come off a couple of times today. Let's hope he'll be able to rejoin the group. He was well off the back when we came up out of the town of Bourg-Saint-Maurice. We're on the final climb of the day then, something like about 14 kilometres to go to the top.
Well, at this very moment, Laurent Defoe actually virtually Maillot jaune, yellow jersey in the Tour. That won't last, of course, but at least we can tell his kids or his grandchildren in later life that he had the yellow jersey on the road at one stage in the 96 Tour de France.
And so Udo Bolt's here. So, no,
Laurent Defoe is having some difficulty getting across to him. We saw Defoe attacking earlier on. We thought he was going to swallow up very, very easy, Udo Bolts. But he's held on to the 40-45 seconds gap for the last 20 kilometres. Here we are, Laurent Defoe now.
He's looking very good, though. You said he's in some difficulty.
No, he's staying there. He's holding on to Udo Bolt at the same time. But I wonder, is he maybe just keeping the gap as it is, with the hope that Virenque will get across to maybe on the final up to Les Arcs here.
But his team manager must be putting in the picture now.
Well, it's actually, sorry, Dave, but the one important thing is that Roussel is actually Laurent Defoe's manager, so he was giving him very important information.
This stage then of the Tour de France stage 7 from Chambéry to Les Arcs. So this rider here, Dufo, is virtually the yellow jersey on the road. The overall yellow jersey rider, Stéphane Hulot, having retired after his knee gave out following the climb of the Col de Madeleine. So there's going to be quite a change then. Piccoli, who started out this morning in second spot, 20 seconds down, is way back down the road somewhere. It might take him a fortnight to get to the finish. No, I'm exaggerating. Poor lad has been really blown out. So really, of the main men we now know are on the road. We'll come back and just give you their positions, but I think, Stephen, you've heard something else.
Well, the group in Japan is 2 minutes now behind Udo Bols, with Amberger 1 minute 50 and Laurent Defoe being 45 seconds behind. Maybe we saw Bruno Roussel there giving some information to Laurent Defoe, but normally in this situation, when you've got a rider in front and your leader is behind, the main Red Sportif will stay with the back group with the leader, and the second Red Sportif will go ahead and talk to the second rider, I mean Defoe. Where this is circumstance here, we saw Bruno Roussel going up and talking to Laurent Defoe, so maybe he's probably telling him that, listen, there's something's going to happen on the hill now coming up here, so I'm going to maybe Roussel's going to tell Virenque, okay, Defoe is waiting for you, try and get across to him. I think in the next few kilometres we're going to see some very, very interesting tactical work.
What a great day we got on the Tour de France today. These giants of the road, then, entertaining us, if you can use that word in capital E-T-E, how we spell entertaining, because it's been entertaining for us watching it, but it's been hard work for them. They chucked it down with rain this morning as Dufo comes up so quickly like an express train to catch the good strain of Bolts up in front. Look at the speed, how quickly he's closing that gap. 11 kilometres to go.
We see Defoe, he counters Udo Bolts, but maybe Red Sportif was telling him, listen, behind us looking bad. Johan is controlling things very, very well. Maybe you better go yourself and try and win the stage. And if he wins the stage and finishes more than 20 seconds ahead of Johan's group, he can take the yellow jersey, because he's only 40 seconds down on GC. He's 20 seconds bonus, or there's no bonus start there. So it's 40 seconds must finish ahead of the group to actually take the yellow jersey today. As we come on to the banner, there's 10 to go.
So 10 kilometres left for Laurent Defoe. I'm now going to work out, like you're saying here, Stephen, that we can discount Hulot, discount Piccoli, and the group of riders you're looking at now at the moment. Zula's got back there. What a courageous man he is. He's got back there. Well, Zula this morning, third on general classification, was 4 minutes and 5 seconds in arrears on Hulot. So discount that. In fact, we can now say that Hulot is technically yellow jersey, because the yellow jersey's gone out. Piccolo's not with us at all. So the gap between Dufo on the road there and Zula's in his group is in fact 44 seconds exactly. But Zula this morning was just 3 seconds ahead of Berzin, who's also in this group. Alano's in this group, so he was 7 seconds ahead of Alano's in this group. He's 11 seconds ahead of Rees, who's in this group as well. He was in fact 12 seconds ahead of Indrain, who's in this group at the moment. And looking down here, Rominger this morning was was in fact some 18 seconds down on Zuller, also in this group at the moment, and Veronk at the moment this morning was about nearly 40 seconds down on Zuller. Who else in this group? Yugramov, that's right. So he's about 42 seconds down on Zuller. So there's a lot of riders here, spread by no more than 40 seconds, and the major one has gone down the road is Duffield, who this morning was 44 seconds adrift.
But I think tomorrow will be the real race of truth with the time trial. With it being on a hill, a lot of these riders have no kind of point of reference, so nobody knows how the likes of Zule is going to go tomorrow, how Indurain is going to go tomorrow, because normally when you have a mountain time trial in the Tour de France, and we haven't had in a long time, normally it's after about 10 days of racing, whereas this time in the Tour it's only after a week, so nobody has any real point of reference.
So do you think this lot are going to sit together and ride in together and settle a differences tomorrow?
Well, I think the thing is here, the unfortunate thing for everything is we see here Indurain having a small little word with Zule. I think Zule knows that now he can be yellow jersey today, and maybe he's saying, well, okay, I can be yellow jersey, if I can get it for one day it's good, because I think tomorrow in the time trial I still think that Zule could even be a good rival against Indurain tomorrow, but at the same time I think Indurain is maybe a little stronger than him tomorrow in the time trial.
But the gap from Dufo back to the Indurain group is 1 minute and 40 seconds, so he's race leader on the road now by well over 1 minute in the yellow jersey position. They've got to put the hammer down, otherwise the yellow jersey goes with the climbing star from Switzerland. Dufo's number, by the way, 74, is the number of the region here, the Savoie region, the department which is the start was this morning. In fact, where we were down, this is the Haute-Savoie, the department in which the start was this morning, and that's number 74. They number all the regions. The Haute-Savoie is number 74.
And the ironic part about it, David, is that 2 years ago, Laurent Duffield was a teammate of Alex Zule with the Once team. That's where Laurent Duffield started off some 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, these lads know each other, they know their strengths and weaknesses, and this man has bounced back after 2 crashes. He's fallen off his bike twice. I mean, most people fall off their bike at some time in their life, but when you do it in a big race like this, and then get back on your bike and fight your way through, we really have seen some tremendous action today. Brilliant bike racing in this stage of the Tour de France. At long last, the sunshine is now on the backs of the riders, but it's been a very watery sunshine. It's not too warm at all, but the racing has been very hot since we started the climb here up to the finish at Les Arcs. Dufo way up the road ahead of these riders, getting on towards 2 minutes lead. Looks like he could ride into the yellow jersey, but the chase is on. We've seen another rider go up the road to try and catch up with Dufo, who's gone straight past Boots. It's been the champion of Spain who's tried to go out and close the gap, and so Fernandez Gines has also left this little lot too. Looking back here now on our slow motion, that's Zuller taking a drink, and he's actually going to, he offered it to Indurain. They've been having a chat since Zuller fell off, but that's a gentlemanly thing to do, eh?
Well, I think he offered him a drink, which is very, very, very nice and very sportsman, very fair play of him also. But as I say, Dufo here looking very, very comfortable here on his bike compared to some of the riders back in Indurain's group. But in the same sense, it's a little bit unfortunate that Zule is actually riding for the jersey now, because I think that if Zule hadn't gotten back on, there would have been more attacks from the likes of Berzin, from Rees. Why not Rees? Because now that Zule is back in the peloton again, he's actually, if he can catch this man, if he can pull back a minute on this man here, he's a yellow jersey. Maybe that's what he's going for, but doing that, he's helping Indurain a lot.
They don't seem to be going that quick, do they? So let's name them there. We've got Luc Leblanc here in the yellow jersey, Olano over there in the rainbow bands over on the far side there. Is Boltz, who tried to get a break earlier on for Telecom team. Luttenberger is still in there in the whitish colours with the blue stripe for the career team. Sorry about the break-up at the moment. We go back up to Laurent Dufo. We're trying to ID some of those riders. That's all that's left from the 166 that started this morning from Chambly on the 199 kilometres to the finish at Les Arcs.
That's all that's left in the front, David.
Yeah, I know.
There's still more behind, but yes, there are. How far we don't know.
Well, I hope it doesn't get dark too soon, because, I mean, poor old Yaskula was 20 minutes down when we came over the top of the Col de Madeleine after just some 80 kilometres of racing. So there's a lot of riders way back down the road now in what they call the bus, checking their watches when they get the time back for the first rider over the line to try and stay inside the time limit.
I think today was an ideal day to attack Miguel Indurain, because we all know that this weather here Indurain doesn't like. So if we had if they attack him today, whatever they could do it. But if the weather gets warmer tomorrow, it gets more difficult to actually get time on Indurain.
And here they are, still climbing and waiting for the final few kilometres. But Steve was saying earlier on, this is a very smooth climb. It's quite wide. You see here going up towards the ski station at Les Arcs, where we're going to stay tonight. And then we've got the time trial station. Well, Hamburger just about 13 seconds ahead of this little group here. So one or two of the little hopefuls sliding off the front, but the big battle, I think, will be in the time trial tomorrow. And Miguel Indurain doesn't seem to have missed a beat all day today. Look at those big thick gloves he's got on. His sleeves are rolled down because the riders today have been there. Had some difficulty. That's in the pink is Zuller. In the blue was Rominger.
The gap is actually getting bigger, Dave.
Yep.
This is something I just don't understand, Dave, because we hear on the race radio that Laurent Jalabert is in serious difficulty behind. If the race keeps going this way, he might even get eliminated. But at the same time, you have his teammates in the front riding to try and maintain a gap against this guy here, Laurent Diffo. So, and like I think myself, there are more ways than that of putting Indurain in difficulty, I think.
Well, Hamburger's being brought back by that group. He tried to get away, and he looks like he's like to be absorbed then as Garmendia taking Zuller up. What a sterling teammate Garmendia's been. He went back or waited for Zuller after Zuller crashed, and then and LeBlanc goes on the left-hand side. LeBlanc starts to attack on the left-hand side and launch himself into space. He's got a gap of nearly 2 minutes to cover to try and win this stage. LeBlanc is no great threat overall on general classification. He started this morning way out of the frame after having a few disastrous days. He had 2 very bad crashes as LeBlanc, so he's got to now to go and try and get a stage victory to restore some confidence to this ex-world champion who had a season last year which was a complete washout for his illness, for his injury, his operation, and of course his sponsor running away with the money, or in fact not paying it.
Just a little word from Bruno Roussel, who is the director sportif of Laurent Diffo. He just said on French television a minute ago that he actually had planned for Laurent Diffo to attack this morning on the Col de Rosland, which is the climb we saw him attacking on, to try and help the chances of Richard Virenque maybe getting across him at one stage. But apparently Richard Virenque missed him. As you cross here, Uda Bolta getting caught from Luc Leblanc, but he said that Virenque couldn't get away from Indurain, so eventually he went up and told Laurent Diffo, listen, it's all over to you now. Leblanc has been too heavily marked behind. You have the chance of getting the stage, and maybe the yellow jersey, have a go. He said, we're not yet to the finish, but we're almost there. With 1 minute and 45 seconds ahead of Indurain, the yellow jersey is looking very much a possibility at this stage.
And Steve was giving that information for what the team manager was saying. We saw the Union Jack waving on the side of the road. Well, they better keep waving it for quite a while now, because Chris Boorman got shelled out on the Madeleine, and he went over the top there with a group of riders about 2 minutes and 59 seconds down. They re-caught the group containing Indurain on the descent and through the flat parts, but once they started up the Roseland climb, Chris had a bad patch again, drifted out. Jalabert went past him. Jalabert's back in trouble now as well, so at least Chris Boorman is in good company. There's a lot of top-class bike riders who are down the road, because having started 166 riders this morning, this is all that's left at the front of the race, and behind there's a lot of very, very tired riders who are hanging on. The camera now picking up here, Rominger. There is Virenque that Stephen was just talking about, who was so well marked when he tried to go away, certainly. And this is the fellow of the career team, Luttenberger, who looks so smooth too to me at the moment.
Yeah, he's looking very, very good. I think himself joining the Carrera team was a good move for him, because Carrera have an eye for finding young talent. And looking over the last 2 years, when you see they found Capucci from nobody, they found again Pantani. Now the Pantani is out, and they found they had Zaina. Zaina was out, and they found Luttenberg. So Luttenberg, of course, had great results over the last 2 weeks. So they had reason, they did right to actually put all their eggs onto his basket.
1 minute and 15 seconds is the gap coming over the race radio, if I read that right. Did I, Stephen? 1 minute 15 seconds. Belts, as I say, Duffield back to the group here that you're looking at now. So 1:15 for the man who technically still is the race leader on the road. Because Zuller, who's in his main pack now, is technically race leader, and so in fact he started at 40 seconds this morning, so we'll have to watch very carefully to see if that gap comes down. We can disregard the figure of Luc Leblanc, who's trying to close the gap down. But look in the rock, there's a lot of really what I call mountain goats in this, all sitting on Indrain's wheel, and nobody else other than Luc Leblanc is well down on the classification, and Dufield's trying to do anything about it. They're just riding up one at a time, and we've seen Reese do well on the descent and try and get away from him, but they seem to at the moment of just waiting, and perhaps it may be over to the time trial tomorrow. But Luttenberger is not all that well placed over on general classification. I'm trying to see where he is now at the moment. I would have thought anyone's the stage victory, but mind you, the Tour of Switzerland, which he won just about 2 weeks ago, might have sapped some of his strength. That's a fellow in the whitish jersey in the centre of your picture there, now drifting out of the frame, and all eyes on this big fellow. But it's amazing. Now you look at this fellow Indrain, about 6'2" or something, and all round about him, most of them, except perhaps Bjorn Rees and Zuller, who's very thin, they're all well under 6 foot. There's now 5 kilometres to go for the rider in the lead, and the gap is coming down bit by bit on Dufo, but he might still get the yellow jersey if they don't explode, but just have their own little gentleman's race amongst them here.
I've just been listening to an interview there with Manolo Sansa on the subject of why are the only riding at the moment, and you see the gap here going up. But Sanz actually said that well, we want to ride it by tranquil, slowly, and make a nice tempo in front of the bunch, so that Zule can maybe do a better time trial tomorrow, take the jersey from Diffo if he gets it. So they asked him, well, they're not kind of afraid of playing into the hands of Indurain. He says, no, I have to make my riders ride in front of the group to keep the gap down, so that Zule can maybe get the jerseys tomorrow. But he wouldn't really answer the question directly. But in my opinion, and in Bernard Heaven's opinion, and in the French commentaries also, they don't really understand the total tactic of Marlo Sanz at the moment.
Well, we'll all be revealed by tomorrow night, if not by tonight. So it's the weekend in Great Britain, and so many people will be glued to their television sets, and I hope watching Eurosport live. We've had massive audiences, by the way. Last week we had some of the best audiences for the start of the Tour de France on the Saturday and Sunday. I haven't seen the figures during the week yet, but I've heard back from Eurosport. They're well pleased, a number of you who switched on here. And I understand too that Eurosport is reaching over 106 million homes. Nope, they're not all switched on today listening to us here, but nevertheless we're now reaching so many homes across Europe, and the number of people watching it live, and that gap is 1 minute 40 seconds on my watch back there. I didn't have a chance to see the other riders go through, but 1:40 it is back there on my watch between Dufo and the rider. Yes, I thought he might go. I was trying to build him up and Ferrang's going with him as well.
Ferrang's gone as well. Ferrang.
The mountain climbers specials, I thought they might start to go, and now Luttenberger will be just waiting there, and I said, well, I wonder if it's stuff from the Tour of Switzerland. Well, now he's showing what a little climber he is, but he's got Ferrang with him, and he doesn't seem to have gone quite quick enough at the moment. I don't think it's quite steep enough really for Luttenberger, but he's going to do what he can, and he's got Ferrang with him.
At Kofi Rank, of course, he cannot ride with Luttenberger because he has Laurent Defoe in the front.
But at least he can follow.
At least he can follow, yes.
Here it goes. That's the slow-mo. Luttenberger on his way.
But actually, what I think Ferrang should do, he should actually ride with Luttenberger. There's only 5 kilometres to go. The gap is still 1 minute 50. It's impossible to get Defoe back. So if Ferrang was to ride with Luttenberger, he could gain more time on Indurain, and without jeopardising the chances of Defoe.
And Luttenberger really is hammering along here, this Austrian. Now, last year was his first pro year. He won nothing. He had some injuries and some problems with his knees or something. The year before, I say he was an amateur. And then now his first victory ever was, in fact, a stage in the Tour of Switzerland. He went on to win the Tour of Switzerland. What a way to start a pro career.
Here we are, Laurent Defoe now, less than 5 kilometres to go. It seems to be... starting to show signs of fatigue there.
He did, didn't he? And in no man's land, this fellow here, Luc Leblanc, who also now wants to get a stage victory, because Luc, having fallen off a couple of times, he took a right old clout on day one, and only 39 seconds behind him.
He is under pressure, yeah.
So Duffield looks like, bong.
Yeah.
The Swiss bell has
the problem with this, the cold wet weather, sometimes you don't eat enough. You must remember, when it's very cold, you're using up much more calories than you would than if it's warm. So the same thing has happened to a lot of people today. Probably the same thing happened to Boardman, to Jalabert, plus many other riders today. So here we are, Laurent Duffield, after attacking early on. He's under pressure.
So what a day we've had, and the finish sheet tonight will have turned the whole race upside down on its head. And this fellow, way down on general classification in 99th position, we're going to find himself moving up into the top 30 or so, I'd have thought. Luc Leblanc wearing the rainbow jerseys round his sleeve edgings here as past world champion, really showing a gutsy comeback. Imagine what it's like to be out of the sport for 12 months and fight your way back to this level.
Well, I'm very sure that his team car has come along to him now a minute ago, I'm sure, and said to his rider, he said 39 seconds. So what's happening now? Has 12 seconds between Duffield and Leblanc. Look at Leblanc now, he's a man possessed now. 3 kilometers to go, Leblanc's going to catch up with Duffield.
He's got him in his sights there. And Indurain Lachey. I'm sure on my race radio I heard Indurain Lachey. Let's wait. I hope when the camera goes back there. Radio 2, I think.
Yes.
Oh, Lachey, I should explain, means that he's been dropped. Looks like Indurain, yeah, he's got some problem. There he is. And Zula's gone away. Or Zula?
No, Zula's with him.
But what's happened? Has he got a problem?
No. Legs
have gone. We've never seen this for many years in the Tour de France, with Indurain suddenly losing power.
He's blown now. You see, he's not going very fast at all, Dave. He's blown.
What a race we've got today. Indurain Lachey, Zula having troubles after 2 crashes to stay with him. Duffield trying to win the stage, but after him has gone Luc Leblanc. Who's going to get the yellow jersey tonight? I don't know. Permanently 1 from 5.
What a stage, Dave. What a stage. Classic to classics today, huh?
Oh. Well, we said there were a lot of top men in the race this year that put the pressure on Indurain. We didn't think it happened so early in the race.
Orlano's
going. Yeah, he's on the front foot, but he will ride surely for Rominger at the moment.
Oh, yes, they have to. Rominger must even ride with him. They must ride as hard as they can.
Leblanc looking for the stage victory.
Look at the gap, Dave.
1 minute 19 seconds back from Leblanc to this group here. But he's no threat for the yellow jersey overall. And Indurain looks like he's almost come to a grinding halt. He's trying to look after Zula, and Zula is also trying. Now, Zula was technically yellow jersey this morning after Hulot had retired. Piccoli is way down the mountain struggling. So, in fact, Jalabert is also out. Berzin could be the yellow jersey if he can keep the gap. But Duffield has begun to collapse now.
That can't be very good for Mikel's morale.
We have not seen a sight like this on television for the past 5 years, and it looks like Hamburger's going up to him as well. And is he going past him? This is an unbelievable piece of live action on Eurosport, on your telly.
You must remember that the final kilometre is even steeper.
It does go, and then we got...
Hamburger's gone straight past Dave. It must be so bad.
Yep, and in fact, although the final kilometre gets up steeper, there is about 100 metres downhill to the finish line where we're sat here, and the commentary positions have absolutely erupted when that news came over the radio. And here then, with 2 kilometres to go, it looks like a stage victory for Leblanc, but we've seen how anybody can explode, but this man really has blown a gasket.
What a day, Dave. Abandon of the yellow jersey. Laurent Jalabert goes out. Boardman goes out. Indurain gets a bad day. Zule falls off twice, gets back on again and blows himself. What a day.
Brunel goes over the mountainside, climbs back up again as well. Yesterday, Armstrong packed it in and climbed off his bike and said, no more for me. This tour is full of drama this year, and this is only the 8th day of racing. What a day we've got here. Sorry, we've 8 days with the prologue time trial.
He's calling for a drink. He's calling for a drink, but he can't take a drink. If he gets a drink, he gets penalised.
And
here we go.
Here we go.
Oh, that's not good. It's not even his own team who gave it to him. That's dangerous for himself and for the team. You see, it wasn't his own team, so he didn't want to take a chance taking a drink from it, and he threw it away straight away.
This is a sign of a man suffering like we'd never seen before. I saw it once in the Tour of Italy when Ugramov gave him a right pacing up toward the finish, and there are the marks of Zuller with the rips on his side. We can understand why Zuller is having problems.
The two big men of the Tour, David, two monuments of this year's Tour. Side by side.
Groveling for different reasons, actually.
Here we are. Indurain getting a drink from his car. He will be penalised tonight for that, sure.
Is that going to mean time, seconds, or
time,
just money?
Times and money. I got it myself, David.
You know, oh yes, you sat there before, haven't you?
The stage I collapsed into La Plania, so I got the bottle within 20 kilometres of the end. He penalised me 10 seconds. It wasn't a lot, but today there's much more in the pot today.
Well, you're listening to Stephen Roche, who I remember that time in La Plania when you tried to keep the gap back to Delgado, was also talking to the Spanish listeners on Spanish television. We've got the experts all over the place here. What a day you're seeing on TV. On his way up to try and win stage 7 of the Tour de France of Chambéry-les-Arcs, one of the most eventful days we've had in this race for many, many years now. Luc Leblanc, the previous world champion, who had a disastrous year last year, can now see the sign which says to him 1 kilometre away from a stage victory in this year's Tour.
The race radio says Zuli has gone. Zuli has tried to, whatever force he has left, try and leave Indurain.
He has. He's just gone away. But the gap then for Leblanc doesn't really matter because he's so far down general classification. But Zuller, despite the crashes and the pain he's gone through, has now gone away from Indurain. And both these two are way off behind the rest.
Oh, look how fast
Escarmendia.
Oh, Escarmendia goes past.
Yeah, and he's Zuller's teammate. He's gone up to him now. Yeah, he's going to help Zuller now.
It doesn't matter. Zuller's in such a bad condition. It's even be difficult to help him.
But can I remind you, the cameras are not picking up. In front of these two, there's a group containing Berzin, Olano, Rees, and in that little group too, we've got Luttenberger, Rominger, and all that group are very important in the overall general classification. And for my money, unless Duffield gets the yellow jersey, because we haven't seen the time check on him, if Duffield should get the yellow jersey, if it doesn't, it could well go to Berzin, who is the best placed of the group that are front, because now Zuller's backed out, Indurain's blasted out. It's going to be a stage victory, a triumphant one for this man, Luc Leblanc, who undoubtedly, having had 2 major crashes in this race, has shown what guts and determination is all about in riding a bike. It's written all over his face now. I've had the crash, I've had the problems, I had the pain of the operations last year. I fought my way back. I'm an ex-world champion, but right now I'm going to show I've got a stage victory this year in the Tour de France. And he's riding into tremendous applause from the French spectators. The French have had a bonanza tour this year. And here he comes then, Luc Leblanc looking back to say, I've got this stage victory. He comes over the top and there's a short little drop down in toward the finish. And all eyes will not only be on this man crossing the line in first place to win the stage from Chambéry-les-Arcs, but to see who takes the yellow jersey. He takes the stage victory, triumphantly waving to people. It's all downhill from here. Look, don't worry about this one. You can wave. We've enjoyed it. That's great. Yes, you're number 1 again after being world champion. Your next ride, this must be where he's had success, is to come here. I think he had one little reasonable success halfway through this season, but now he's got the greatest one, a stage victory in the Tour de France. Well done, Luc.
Well, I'm sure he's saying to himself at the same time, a pity he had to fall the other day, because you must remember he lost some 2.5 minutes the other day in a fall coming down the hill, which put him out of contention. If he'd only known he was going to go so well today, that's life.
And here comes Laurent Duffield. This man started out this morning in 26th spot, 4 minutes 49 seconds down the yellow jersey. Rank's trying to come up to him. Olano and Rominger have now attacked as well to try and come across. The watch is on this man now. He's got about 40-odd seconds back to
Rominger coming in, Dave. Rominger.
Oh, in that case, Rominger will take the jersey if Rominger comes ahead. Who gets this one out? This one. It's going to be out of that group. Who gets it? Rominger looks like he's going to take the yellow jersey. Rominger's coming through here because Duffield hasn't got enough time in his hand. Rominger's going to take the yellow jersey. What a triumphant ride for the Mapei man. He put his whole four-season round, winning the Tour de France. Well, now it looks like he's got the yellow jersey to defend. That's on my count here as he goes across the line. And the rest of the riders coming in here. Duffield.
Lutenberg behind Duffield.
Yeah.
Orlando. Barista. Escartina. Berzin is there also.
But out of that group
11 seconds back.
Yeah, but out of that group, the start this morning, Rominger, has he got? He was 4:24, Orlando 4:12.
Berzin or Orlando?
That's a 12 seconds between them. That's right. Now, and Berzin this morning was 4:08.
The last kilometre, Dave.
Rominger was 24, so 16 seconds. No, there wasn't enough, was there? No.
Indurain's going to lose at least 3 minutes.
Yeah, but I'm trying to work it out. Although he came first then, Rominger, he was about 16 seconds down on Berzin this morning, and there wasn't 16 seconds there, was there, at the end?
No, 11 seconds there.
11 seconds. So, in fact, Berzin might have got the jersey because Olano this morning was 4 seconds slower than Berzin, and they came through together. Well, I'm doing my best here, folks. That may be first, second, and third. Let's go then. Roughly saying it could be Berzin, Olano, and Rominger in that order, but don't take me to...
Just throw it up in the air and see what happens, Dave. But Indurain, the big loser of the day.
I'll write it down now. I think it's Berzin, Olano, and Rominger in that order, but Rominger couldn't punch, I think, enough seconds out to take the jersey off Berzin. Keep your fingers crossed. There we go. But this man is really in trouble.
And Jalabert is 4 kilometres from the finish now, Dave.
And how long does that take coming up a climb like this? About 3 minutes a kilometre?
Yeah,
that's
2 minutes a kilometre or so.
And Bourbon, he passed him way back down the road, so Chris could be 20 minutes down. Luttenberger was third.
Stage.
On the stage, right. Well, we were just trying to sort out the GC plus the second plate. The way that Rominger came through and caught Dufresne and Baron was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Well, I put a lot of money on Rominger this year. I put a lot of money on him over the last 2 years and lost, so I have a lot of faith in him for this year.
I'm a Berzin man, by the way.
I'm Berzin, Rominger. I'm up for Rominger, but I feel Berzin has a great chance also. But I feel Rominger is the one I prefer to see winning.
Well, we shouldn't be so cocksure now, because this man's come back before and he's riding with himself. Don't forget the time trial. This man can knock minutes out of people. Rominger, we know, is good time trials. Berzin is, but really they're the only two. Zulla's a good time trial, but he's had a couple of falls now.
He will recover, of course. Indurain will recover, you will see, and I'm very sure tomorrow he'll go out and try and stamp his foot down just to show like I'm here. Here's Zule.
With Gomendi. This is...
Can't even pedal, Dave, look.
A sorry day then for Zulla, who's had 2 crashes. Mantley rode to the front on the climb and pretended he was okay when he got alongside Indurain. He even offered him a drink from his bottle, but it was really, I suppose, a bit of kidology.
It's either Orlando or Berzin for the yellow jersey today.
Yep, I've got Berzin, Olano, Rominger in that order, but because this morning Berzin was 4 seconds ahead of Olano, and I didn't quite count them down when they came across the line. I was looking for Dufresne, going to press the watch, and they went straight past Dufresne. Rominger came through first, and then Berzin and Olano came shortly afterwards, but it depends on that gap. We're waiting for confirmation then of that, with other people rattling away on their computers the time difference. But here, what a sad sight to the Spanish supporters that have lined the route today. Indurain, though, will get a sympathetic round of applause. This man is a courageous battler. We've not seen the last of him yet by any means, because don't forget...
Indurain freewheeling across the line here just shows he's at the end of his energy.
At 4 minutes and 19 seconds down on LeBlanc, but he must have lost about 4 minutes on people like Berzin and Rominger and Olano. That is tremendous. So we've seen an absolute amazing day's racing today. 4:19 back to Indurain from this fellow here, but he was only just about 20 seconds ahead of the rest of them. And in comes the Spanish champion. They're all coming in as some cracking riders here, but look at the gaps.
A day like this, Dave, you live, I think, once in a generation, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad to be sat here and watch it, even though we've frozen to death since, 1 o'clock this afternoon. We've been on air now for nearly 4 hours, I suppose. It's been a fascinating 4 hours. I don't know if any of you people back at home in Great Britain or anywhere across Europe have sat and listened to Stephen Roche, myself, David Duffield, but thank you for being with us if you have, and we hope you've enjoyed it all the way through. It's been a tremendous day's racing, the like of which you don't often have a chance to see, and we get paid for doing it too, which is rather a nice thing, isn't it? I'm so pleased for this fella.
Berzin, yellow jersey.
Got it. Okay. Well, I got Berzin, Olano, Rominger down. I might have a bit of paper here. I thought Rominger got it, so I looked back and realised that he lost some time in the race. It was in that stage when they split, wasn't it? Yep.
Sorry, Dave, cut you off. Berzin is 1600th of a second ahead of Orlano. So he has the jersey with 1600th of a second.
Right, this is from the time trial, product time trial. 1600ths of a second. Well, it was like in the Tour of Italy, wasn't it? It was 4600ths of a second when Olano got the yellow jersey, got the pink jersey, didn't he?
Yes,
4600ths. But this man has got the stage victory today. Well done to Luc Leblanc on what has been a most eventful day in the Tour de France. Absolutely brilliant performance by Luc Leblanc.
Tour de France with Coca-Cola, always for the fans.
And there we have it. Yevgeny Berzin in the yellow jersey by just 1600ths of a second on this eventful day on the stage from Chambry to Les Arcs. As he leaves the podium now, he'll make his way back down the mountain side, or some of them staying up here at Les Arcs. But tomorrow we're going to have the time trial, and Berzin is absolutely superb time trialist too. But the gap is so narrow between himself and Olano in second spot, and according to my notes, I think Rominger might be in third. A disastrous day for Indurain, who came in some 4 minutes down. Here Rominger trying to take over the yellow jersey, just failed to do that, but nevertheless behind here, looking through the crowd as Ludenberger came up into third spot, having caught Veronk and Duffield, at one time was technically yellow jersey on the road. Olano was just behind him, and then this morning, having set out with Olano just some 4 seconds behind Berzin, the clock went on when Berzin went across the line, and we had to split him by the prologue time trial. Some of the later arrivals come in now. There's going to be a lot more riders coming in way after this now. So victory then for the stage went to Luc Leblanc, but the yellow jersey is on the shoulders of that young man Berzin, winner in the past of the Tour of Italy. And my hot tip for success in Paris, that might be the kiss of death, Stephen. Oh, Stephen's listening to the interviews here. He's got that look on him. He's concentrating on the French commentary. This is Veronk coming up to take the polka dot jersey as the king of the mountains. He really has romped up the mountains today, looking very, very strong indeed. Yes, Stephen.
Just talking to Berzin there. Berzin was the same way. He didn't really have a very difficult day. He just stayed in the wheels, couldn't do much more. He just was happy today to sit back and let everything happen, and the yellow jersey just kind of fell on his shoulders. So if he had known it was so close, he might have even been able to put in an effort to come to the end, but didn't know he was so close. So they asked him if he's capable of winning the yellow jersey someday in the Tour. He's saying, yes, I think so, but it's my first Tour this year, so I want to see how it goes before I start saying what I'm going to do.
Well, this man knew what he'd got to do today. He had to romp up the climbs. He went over the top of the Madeleine and took enough points on that one, and the climb of the Roseland, and now at Les Arcs to take the polka dot jersey. And here a rest of riders coming in, but believe you me, there's a lot more further down the mountainside. They'll be coming in up to half an hour, 40 minutes behind the victor, Luc Leblanc, today. And look at the state they're in. If you're just switched on now, and it looks nice and sunny here. This morning the clouds were down all the way along the race. It had been raining, and here comes Jalabert. In fact, the clock on the left-hand side shows you how this French hope for the yellow jersey now has lost it. Here comes Pascal Lino in as well, another great French hope some years ago who took over the yellow jersey in the Tour. And Jalabert coming over the top of that short rise before the descent into the finish. There's now 12, nearly 13 minutes down on Luc Leblanc, but Jalabert has had a disastrous day, and not only him, Indurain too. He lost 4 minutes, but Indurain might pull it back later. Jalabert, I think, Stephen, no hope.
No, Jalabert has no hope, but I think the Tour now is blown wide open again, because normally when an Indurain goes into the first time trial, he's normally in the front or coming out of the time trial, he has 4 minutes in his hand. Here he is going into the time trial now with 4 minutes in arrears. So,
but there we are then, Berzin just equal with Olano, Rominger at 7 seconds. That time trial tomorrow, even with Indurain hovering, is going to be something worth watching.
Was brought to you on Eurosport by Coca-Cola.
You rejoin us as a most interesting and unusual sight greets our eyes here. This man, Miguel Indurain, is lying 14th on general classification following a disastrous day yesterday. 3 minutes and 32 seconds down. Normally he would, by this stage of the race, be starting very near the back end with the faster men, maybe within a few seconds of maybe the yellow jersey. That's been his technique all the time when he goes into the first time trial in the Tour de France, to be there or thereabouts with a chance of taking out the yellow jersey if he hadn't already got on his shoulders. But normally he takes it in the first time trial of the Tour de France, but this year the time trial is up the mountain of the Val d'Isère ahead of Indurain. Rise 1,000 metres of climbing, and look at this man possess all the way through the time check so far. Chris Bourbon, who took a rough old time yesterday, is now coming to the finishing straight here. He went through the 24 kilometre point, 1 minute 41 seconds up on Guarini, who is the fastest rider we got so far, in 56 minutes and 11 seconds, and there he goes across the line, and they've not put his time up. They weren't ready for that one. We'll have to wait and see when it comes up on Minitel here, but that was a tremendous ride by Bourbon. He was, I say, over 1 minute and 41 seconds ahead of Guarini, so it looks like he really has triumphed. Look at the expression on Chris' face. That man, the world champion when it comes to time trialling, the world champion when it comes to pursuing, or Olympic champion pursuiter, brought up on time trialling when he was out there on the Wirral Peninsula. This other great time trialist here now knows he's got a battle on his hands. I will give you the time when it comes up on our screen. For the first time, the people missed it there on the line. They were actually, I think, taken by surprise. I'll hold on to your hats. Listen to this. Chris Bourbon. He had done the 30.5 kilometres in 54 and 23. 54 minutes and 23. I can hear the applause from where I'm sitting here at the top of the mountain for all you good people in Great Britain. I know there's a load of time trialists who have rushed back home to watch it on Eurosport this afternoon. And there it is in Bourbon, 54.23. Fastest to date.
This morning, Dave, I put a bet on Indurain's not going well anyway, Dave, that's for sure.
Oh,
I can nearly tell it now. But it's not good for him or anybody else, I'm sure, for his teammate. But he doesn't seem to have okay, he's only starting off, but this is the fast part of the course here, and unless he's gonna doing this and hoping to wind up later on, but he isn't actually giving the expression of actually having a full recoup from yesterday. But maybe we'll see as we go along. But I was saying, yes, this morning we had a few bets on, and I put that Berzin and Tony Rominger would do in around 53 minutes for the time trial today.
Ah, that's interesting. And 54.23 is Chris Bourbon's time. Yeah, I suppose to me, when I saw the course yesterday, I thought it was a bit too steep for Chris, who's normally a flat course time trial. I mean, he can do the shorter ones, I think, fairly well, but it looked to me to be a bit too far for a man who's not a good climber. But he has worked a lot on his climbing in recent years, and certainly in the last 12 months or so he's come good on the climbing. He's lost a bit of weight as well, and I suppose he's got something to show up from yesterday's disaster, but I don't know how much he took out of his legs.
It has, but like for example, it's very rare that you get a good climber doing a very, very good mountain time trial. But you often get a good flat time trialist riding well on the mountain time trial, because you're using power. You haven't not actually using like Richeviank, for example, is a very, very good mountain rider, but he will only be barely, I'd say, inside the first 10 today in the time trial, because you need a special kind of force, mental and physical force, which Chris Boardman has on the flat, which he keeps on the hills either. This time trial today is not a very, very difficult climb, the likes of Alpe d'Huez or whatever. The gear today, my gear would have been having a 12-19 block with a 44-51 outside ring. Most of the riders today, I think they would be using about a 42-52-53 ring with a 12-19-21. And the most difficult part of the circuit, they would be using, the top guys, I think, would be using the equivalent of a 44-18.
Well, we've just seen Jonkers coming along here, tried to get a breakaway going yesterday before we got to the final climb, and there the intermediate time, 15.7, shows that Jonker, we just saw on our screen, 37 seconds behind Bourbon. But I have to tell you now that Chris Bourbon has lost his top spot at 9.3 kilometres. Sorry, hang on. No, in fact, I'm just looking here. No, they flicked it back in. It's changed. In fact, they changed it and put Bolts up ahead of him at 9.3 kilometres, but Bolts, in fact, is 12.48. That's a surprise. I thought there was something terribly wrong here. They put on the wrong part of our little screen. I nearly fell off my chair when I saw Bolts was faster than Boardman at the... In fact, still, they put it up, yes. They've got at 9.3, Bolts with 2 times. This is rather strange. They've got him now as 12.04 and 12.48. I don't believe this at the moment. We'll come back to that one later on, but our screen at the moment is throwing a bit of a wobble, and they first put Bolts as fast as, then said he's gone through 44 seconds slow. Now, I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens at the moment. But that Jonker, we had a quick look at him. Let me put you in a picture what happened yesterday. We saw Jonker, Ellie and Bolts go away, heading up towards the finish, and one by one they got caught by the group, and just shows you, as Stephen was saying yesterday, how much you can lose ground, because Jonker and Ellie, both of them came in 14 minutes and 2 seconds down on Luc Leblanc, the winner, and he knocked that out of them all the way up on that final climb of the day. So they took a right old pacing. Only Bolts managed to hang on. He went away, but even he got caught and dropped to 17th place, 5 minutes and 9 seconds. So it can change so dramatically, as we saw yesterday on a mountain top finish. Indurain looks like he's getting a bit more power up now, using the big gear. This is the fatter part of the course, and perhaps he's getting his rhythm back.
Well, after being over the course, unfortunately you have 30 kilometres and a bit of time trialling, and you only have, I'd say, about altogether 4 kilometres of more or less flat, or 5 kilometres of flat and downhill. So there's a very, very minority part of the circuit actually going downhill, where you can actually use the big gear. As you can see here, Miguel, he has he's turning the legs fairly well here. I don't know what outside chainring he has on, but he has it down on the 12 anyway. That's one thing for sure.
And he's certainly making light work of this particular bit. And don't forget, we've still got another time trial ahead of us when we get out to Bordeaux on the last one day of the tour. So if he hasn't got the jersey back between now and then, but he's still close in contention, that's the day when I'm sure he's prepared to have a good old go to try and get it back again. So that's the one then. We're just opening up our little book here. Thank you, Stephen. That is just 63.5 kilometres. That certainly would suit him from Bordeaux through to Saint-Emilion. What's the lovely name? Saint-Emilion in Bordeaux. They're going
Saint-Emilion.
Saint-Emilion. Oh, is it lovely? Saint-Emilion and Bordeaux. But that will suit him more, the flatter course, if he's close. But at the moment, he's a long way down.
Well, it will, Dave. But if you remember the last few years, the last time trial has always been around 40-45 kilometres. And the first time trial has always been around the 55-60 kilometres. So nobody knows really how Indurain is going to react on a 60 kilometre time trial so near the end of the race. Or nobody knows, for that matter, how the likes of Rominger or Berezino or anybody will actually react to it. So this Tour de France this year, I think, is going to go right down to the bone this year. I think we're going to go right up to the final time trial, the second last day in Paris, before we actually can say, yes, we think someone's going to win.
Well, I can't help forget that time, that 65-kilometre climb trial, Luxembourg in 1992, when Indurain went round in 1:19:31, smashed everybody completely out of sight. It may yet happen. As you come back to us, sitting here at the commentary point with Stephen Roche, myself, David Duffield, we have Chris Boardman, a very disappointed Chris Boardman in some respects, I suppose, because the early time checks, when he'd been going so quickly, Indurain at 9.3 seconds have just pushed him back, and now we've got Ulrich's time on the board, who's gone fastest at 12.06. So after yesterday, it is not looking so good at the moment. But Chris, is this going to have an effect on your attitude to the rest of the tour? Are you going to think more of Atlanta? How's you looking forward to it now? Or perhaps you haven't thought about it yet?
Well, Tour de France is like the first concern for the year, really. I got here with form that wasn't what I wanted it to be. Got a little overexcited at the start of the year, so I've learned a lot there. I got here with pretty good form. You know, I'm certainly not creeping by any means. Yesterday was a bit of a catastrophe, but these things you've either got to get over them or you don't. And for me, the most important thing is to go to Paris. And so long as I don't get sick and I don't have an accident, then that's where I'm going to go. And if I can get some results on the way, then that's great. But the first thing is to go to Paris.
And I'm sure a lot of Brits will be out there to welcome you, Chris. We look forward to seeing you there. Stephen has been to Paris in the yellow jersey. Question for Chris, go on.
Well, first of all, you see a lot of the other riders there that were actually down with Chris yesterday. We see a lot of them taking it easy today. And now that, Chris, you're down now in 41st place and 27 odd minutes down, what was your real reason today for giving it everything?
I really needed to know where I was compared to some of the big riders here, and from that from today's ride, then I can start making some decisions for the rest of this race, because I rode hard today, really hard. It was good, constant time trial effort, and from what I've got at the moment, it was consistent effort right through the hour, and I felt okay. So I'll see where that gets me, and if that puts me quite a few minutes still outside the top riders, then tomorrow I'll take it easy and be going for stages. But really, I've never ridden a mountain time trial, and it's a good chance for me to see where I am compared to them, and then make some decisions based on that.
What do you reckon now for the mountain stages to come? Are you going to try and maybe give it a go, like one day on the mountains, maybe just say, this is my day, I'm going to have a go today, and just see how far you can go with the first riders? Or are you going to just kind of try and get to the finish now in Paris?
Well, again, it depends on the result today. I mean, if I'm going flat out and I find that I'm losing 5 minutes today in a 1 hour climb, then obviously that's not going to be a very good idea. I'm going to pay dearly for that.
One last question, Chris. Your gearing for today, what gear did you ride on the hill today?
I used 51 rings, stayed in that all the time, touched the 21 once or twice, and had the 11 for the descents.
Just one final comment. Chris, your family, I know, sometimes listen to Eurosport. Sally Ann back at home and all the kids. Have you got a message to your family back at home and all your friends?
Yes, I'd like to apologise to Harriet, because I sent a little message on one of the TV channels the other day to Edward and said, look, Edward, this is what your dad does for a living. As we were riding along in the rain there, and Harriet was a bit upset. She's only 4 or 5, and she's a bit upset she got left out. So I'm sorry, Harriet, and there's a bit of a message for you.
Well, he's got a family: Edward, Harriet, George, and baby Oscar, and Sally Ann back at home. Thank you for that, Chris. I know you've got to go and get yourself all sorted out, Dino. Thanks for spending the time to come in. We wish you the best luck. We want you to get to Paris. I'm sure that all the rest of Brit supporters will be turning out there to come along and give you a good cheer at the end there. So we hope you make it in good form, and we look forward to winning a stage and coming back to speak to you on Eurosport. Thanks very much indeed. So the action hotting up on the course now at 9.3 kilometres. Ulrich the fastest, 12 minutes and 6 seconds. Rominger in second spot, 4 seconds back now. What a turn up for the books that is, because Rees is in third spot, 5 seconds behind Ulrich. Indurain is behind him in fourth at 7 seconds, and Chris Bourman down 13 seconds at the first time check. Those are the top 5. Ulrich first, Rominger second, Rees third, Indurain fourth, Boardman fifth. The whole of the times here are absolutely staggering. The race is on, and this young man Ulrich is really setting a hot pace. He's even quicker than Rominger, Rees, Indurain and Boardman. We'll have to see what happens. Our German commentators down here, Peter Voigt and Rudi Altig, himself a very, very strong competitor, world champion in the past, stage victor in the Tour de France. They suddenly jumped up and down, and their eyes have opened, because we, the Brits, have had the stage at the moment. Now it's gone to the Germans.
Rominger's doing a great time here, Dave, but I think this guy Ulrich, who's still competing as far as I know for the best young riders award, it's an incredible achievement for himself with the 9 kilometre board to be actually still in front of Rominger, Rees, Indurain and what have you.
And there's a man, Tony Rominger, superb time trialist, past victor of the Grand Prix de Nation, which seems to have lost a bit of its shine now. Why is it, Stephen, as we're watching him here, that time trialing, I mean, one time the Grand Prix de Nation was like, I must say, climbing Everest or doing the hour record. It was one of those great things many riders would go for, and it seems to have lost a lot of its ambience. Now, as we watched Laurent Jalbert, 2 minutes 37 seconds down at 24 kilometres, so he's out the frame. But why is this change in attitude towards time trialing come about now in terms of things like the Grand Prix de Nation?
Well, first of all, the Grand Prix de Nation was 90 kilometres, and there was it's moved around over the last few years. It was in Paris, it was down in the south of France, it was brought over into Lac Nadine over in the east of France, and eventually the season gets so long now that it was having a time trial like that at the end of September, just nobody wants to prepare for it anymore. It's very unfortunate, I think, because the Grand Prix of Nations holds an awful lot of weight. All the big names won it, like you have Sean Kelly won it, Mutte won it, Hina won it, I never won it, but all the other big names, I mean, won it. Like
you won the time trials in your time, didn't you?
Anchor Tails, like all the big names won it, and I think when even though there was a fairly select group of riders rode it each year, I think over the last number of years it's actually lost its value, because you need, for it to have value, people need reference. For example, when you rode every year in the same area, the same route, you could go out the following year and say, well, okay, Stones did it in that time, Stones did it in that time. Whereas now, with every second year it would have been changed, there's no reference anymore, so it means that it holds less weight.
Jalabert just finished in 57 minutes and 49 seconds. He started this morning in 24th place, 11 minutes and 58 seconds down. We've now got another time check at the 9.3 kilometre mark. Ulrich is still the fastest man there. In fact, he's changed. Berzin, who we didn't actually see. I kept my eyes off the start. I don't think we saw Berzin starting while I was interviewing Chris. I tried to keep an eye on it, but we didn't see him go. Anyway, Berzin was last man to go. There you see on your screen now, Berzin's pushed Ulrich back, and Borman's back in 7th spot at the moment. But look how close those top men are, and Berzin is rocketing along the road.
Berzin's really rocketing the road. 11.50 with 16 seconds into Ulrich and 18 seconds into Orlando. It's an incredible time for over 9 kilometres. If he keeps going this way, he's going to put a minute into the top men.
And you said he might do it in what?
23.
23?
Oh, sorry, 53. Sorry, halfway.
So, Berzin set the fastest time so far at the first time check. Can he get inside 53 minutes? Well, the riders coming up here on this long climb, 30 kilometres in all, the time trial stage today, and I have with me in the commentary position Jim Ockwitz from the Motorola team. He's the team manager of the squad, which includes Max Chandry, the British rider. Jim, we don't have a lot of success with British riding. I mean, Broadman's going great over here now, but you can count the Brits on one hand that have come across and ridden up the Tour de France level. You've brought on a lot of Americans in your team over the years, where you've been with Sir 7-Eleven, now Motorola. What's your advice to riders to how they crack it? Because you brought these riders. What's the secret?
Well, I'm not sure there's any secrets. I think that you definitely have to be dedicated, and you've got to put the time in there and make the sacrifices it takes to be a professional cyclist. I think it's obviously a benefit if you can get here to Europe, compete as an amateur, get on the national team in your own country, go to the Olympic Games, and get some exposure that way, so that the professional teams have an opportunity to look at you.
Well, whilst we're having a chat here with Jim Ockwitz, we're looking at this young rider here who's putting up some cracking rides so far, as Ulrich has really been surprising a lot of people at the 15.7 kilometre mark. 26.55, he's pushed Indrain down into second spot by 15 seconds. Luttenberger, the climber, back at 21. Zull at 40 seconds. Chris Borman at 46. So it's all changing now on the board. We're seeing a fascinating time trial, a mountain time trial here, which hasn't normally happened at Tour de France. We've normally had flat ones, but right now we've got an exciting climb. There you can see the overall position as it is at the moment. Jim, apart from, I say, how it is difficult for the riders to come across, how about you as a team manager, American, building up the teams? I mean, you've been through hell and high water, I'd have thought. What's your future now, since you understand that Motorola are pulling the plug at the end of the year?
Well, we've got 16 years in cycling to back us up. We've spent, this is our 11th Tour de France. We've got a good team right now, and we're hopeful to keep that team together for 97. We're looking for a new sponsor, and we think we're pretty confident someone's going to come in here and pick us up, and we'll be back here again next year.
Well, we look forward to that, Jim, and I hope anybody's listening out there got a few bob to spend to get in touch with Jim Ockwitz. But now, before we let you go, what about the opportunity now for Lance Armstrong? He backed out in rather, I'm not quite sure what happened to him, what the reason he was that he retired. Perhaps you can fill us in on that, but what about his prospects now for Atlanta?
Well, it certainly wasn't a plan for him to stop the Tour so early, and I think that his physical condition just wasn't up to par when he took the start in Holland. As the weather progressed to get worse and worse each day, it didn't help him in terms of trying to find himself, and on top of that, he got a little bit sick the night before, and it was just time for him to leave the Tour.
Well, one man is contesting for the top spot this year. Look at him on your screen now, and he's rushed into the lead there with that superb performance. He said he's going to win the time trial stage today, and you saw in his face the determination which takes him into the top spot, 26 minutes 44 at that particular kilometre point though. So it's all changing as fast as you see it on your board there. Indrain now leading at the 24 kilometre point, but he's fairly well ahead of the top men following his disaster yesterday. One final comment from you, Jim. You've been on this tour for many years, particularly 7-Eleven and recently Motorola. What about yesterday's stage? I couldn't find words to describe it. How did you see it?
Yesterday was a rather bizarre event, and I think we saw the many facets of the Tour de France all taking place in one day. We had good weather, bad weather. We had riders attacking and being caught, and we had many riders finding fatigue that we've never seen before in the Tour de France. People like Indurain and some others, and I think it was a day for all of us to really reflect upon and really understand just how difficult this Tour de France is on the riders.
And I also think, Jim, that the sponsors now are seeing this a great medium for carrying forward their publicity. That an event like yesterday must, to me, have captured the hearts and minds of many people to see how these riders responded. I mean, you got all your lads in your team there. Madouas did a great ride yesterday. How did they feel at the end of it all?
The riders themselves were all very tired. Obviously, the weather again was a factor yesterday. I think the conditions have been difficult, as we all know, since the start in Holland. But the riders are here at the Tour de France, and this is the Super Bowl for us. This is the World Cup. This is the biggest event in our sport. And the riders have motivation every day when they get up in the morning, regardless of how they finished the day before.
Well, thank you for your comments, Jim. We wish the best of luck in your search for new sponsors and for your Motorola team for the way into Paris now. I hope you get a stage victory somewhere along the way. Usually try and pull one up, don't you? And we give you the best of luck. And we hope that the British rider, or the Anglo-Brit, Max Chandry, gets it for you. Thanks for your comments. Thanks. Bye-bye. And the chat there with Jim Okowitz, who's, I mean, the Americans, they rather look upon cycling, have done in the past, rather upon the way that we, I suppose, in Great Britain might look upon trying to start a baseball team in Great Britain. But there we are then, the Berzin on his way up, the fastest man so far at the first time check. Coming up on your screen, the time at 15.7 kilometres, showing that Rees 11 seconds ahead of Ulrich. Rominger back there in third spot. Indurain fourth. Luttenberger, Zuller, Boorman in that order. There's a tremendous roll call of honour on that board, but it can all be changed as this man works his way up the hill. He's going superbly well at the moment.
He's actually going incredible. The one thing I'm a little surprised is Rominger. To see Orlano here on our screen seems a little bit under pressure here, Dave. He started off with a very, very fast time in the first 9 kilometres, and he seems to be a little under pressure here.
So Olano is wearing the rainbow bands as the world champion. I didn't, in fact, I've got to go back and remember. Now this is odd. Surely he's the world road champion, and in the time trial, Indurain is the time trial champion of the world. I would have thought they'd have swapped the world championship jersey on this occasion. What's the rule on this? Do you know?
Well, we're in the Tour de France, Dave. We're not in a time trial. It isn't like Grand Prix of Nations. In Grand Prix of Nations, I think in a one-day time trial, it would have the rainbow jersey, okay. But we're now in the Tour de France, so we're actually in a road event. It's not actually a time trial event. The time trial is in the Tour de France. But it's a good question, David. Actually, it's a very good question. But I'm sure the fact that we're in the Tour de France, and it's a stage race which lasts 22 days, and in the Tour de France we have climbs, we have descents, we have time trials, we have time trials, we have everything. I think that the road champion should wear the jersey, and the road champion today is Orlano.
Ah, that's interesting. I just thought I'd like to see Indurain in his world champion jersey.
Put the cat amongst the pigeons.
How often does he get a chance to wear his jersey in a time trial, Indurain? Because unless he rides the Grand Prix National, I'm not sure it's happening this year. There's the Ola Blanc's come in 55.02, and a great cheer from the French supporters here as we look at the world champion Olano, who does not look too happy at the moment. I know slow motion feedbacks are a bit difficult to look smile and happy, but he's 27.03 and he's well behind Indurain, also just around about Indurain's time. So at the moment I fear that he may be struggling, but there's a long way yet to go.
I think at the same time, Dave, you must remember that the World Time Trial Championship was only invented really last year. So there's possibly a few new things, which we'll probably see a few new things over the next couple of years. But I do agree that a World Time Trial Champion, his actual title should be put more in value by letting him wear it the maximum possible.
Well, that's a note for the organisers from us sitting at the commentary point. Probably putting my size 12s in it yet again. LeBlanc might wag his finger at me for that, Jean-Marie. Look at the power this man came out now. He really has decided to cut back that deficit, that tiny loss yesterday. And don't forget, this race goes to Pamplona, over the Pyrenees. It goes almost by his front doorstep. He just had in his mind that he would ride into Spain wearing that yellow jersey on the way to his 6th victory in the Tour de France. He had a bad day yesterday, the first time I've seen in recent years Indurain crack. I remember some years ago, actually I was in a team car, watched him with Delgado when he did a tremendous job taking him up to the Alpe d'Huez, and then suddenly he cracked and let Delgado go away from it. But look at him now.
He seems to have changed his position today for the time trial. He seems to be much higher than he normally is. Yes, if you remember, he looked very, very far back on the saddle, climber's position. Now he's in the time trial position, but he seems a little higher than he normally would be.
And he also has got his bars pulled back a bit. It seems a much unusual sort of, tucked in position. And here he comes then, 54.23 to beat, and he's going to beat by a massive amount. 1.29 seconds. Indurain in the lead. That was a tremendous ride by this man, who yesterday looked absolutely exhausted when he crossed the line, but he's got enormous recovery. He's a man with the biggest heart, the biggest lungs, the biggest ability to pump blood around his body, and one of the maximum power outputs of today's cyclists, and he's used it to good effect today, and at the moment has taken the lead. But looking back down, the last man on the road here, Berzin, has been setting the fastest time. At the first time check, 9.3 kilometres. He went through in 11 minutes and 50 seconds. At the second time check, he was 26 minutes and 30 seconds with his time for 15.7. He put Rees back by 14 seconds. He was 25 seconds faster than Ulrich, 32 seconds faster than Rominger, 33 seconds faster than Olano. He really is absolutely hammering a hole in this field. At the halfway point then, Berzin triumphant. Look at that bevy of motorcyclists and followers and hangers on. They're witnessing this man in that yellow jersey, and I think somehow we're going to have a battle between Berzin and Indurain all the way to Paris.
Well, Rominger is still my man, Dave, but he's still 3 minutes ahead of Indurain on GC. But I must admit that Rominger is not actually putting in the performance that I thought he would have put in so far. Maybe the second half of the race is going to go a little better, I don't know. But this man here, we've been talking all day about the fact of Indurain and Rominger, maybe Orlando not giving out, maybe the appearance of actually giving it all, not being able to give it all. Whereas Berzin is giving out this kind of dynamite kind of very kind of magical ride here today.
And that's it. That's the position at the moment. Just look at it, relish it, because Berzin could be on his way to a yellow jersey in Paris if he can just get through all the stages ahead of him now with that yellow jersey. Certainly at the moment, it looks like he's going to keep it on his shoulders at the end of today. So Berzin on his way up that time at 15.7 kilometres, 26.30. They're doing 30 kilometres a bit, so if you double that, that's 40, 52. He might be inside the 53 you're talking about.
Well, it's going to be well inside the 53, I think, Dave. But anyway, just going back, and we saw a minute ago the back shot of Berzin, as you see Berzin and Bjorn Rees here. The two of them are getting very, very close in times at the moment for this time trial. Rees saying last night to me that, Stephen, I said to him, Bjorn, you think tomorrow you're going to be in the first straight? He said, Stephen, I'm going to win the time trial tomorrow. I said, oh, well, okay. But what I was going to say was, if you look at Berzin here, his number is 51. And I'm sure last night when Indurain consulted the GC sheet and saw that Berzin's number was 51, I'm sure he started thinking to himself, well, how many previous Tour de France winners have won with 51? There's an incredible amount of them. I haven't got them all in my head here, but I know Hino won and Alfinha won, and
I think Merckx had 51.
Merckx 51 a couple of times. Enormous amount of riders won Tour de France with 51 on the back. So I'm sure it's a little kind of click in Indurain's head now that might say to him now, okay, he has the number, but I'm not superstitious, but he is in front of me.
And there it says Espace Killy on the top of your screen there, showing the 15.7 kilometre time check. The great Olympic skier Claude Killy actually lived for many, many years in Val d'Isère, where the race finishes today. He was born in Alsace. His family, in fact, are still here. His mother and father are living here. And in fact, the family own many of the sports shops up in the town, which is a great ski centre. And that's why you see the Killy name popping up all the time. And not only respect the great man, but he is one of the directors of the Tour de France.
Luttenberger seems to have put in a good time, Dave.
At 24 kilometres, yes.
24 kilometres, yeah, he's put in a very good time.
As we're looking at Berzin, we've also been checking the little computer we got here, because Mr. Compact, and he's 7 seconds down at the 24 kilometre point. Boardman at 1 minute 13 on Indurain. I'm very pleased to hear, though, that Chris is prepared to ride through to Paris, because we have been discussing it, and I said, yes, he's got to do it. If he's ever going to get a good place in the Tour de France, which is every cyclist's ambition, I think he has to ride all the way through hell and high water. You've got to take a pacing. I mean, where was, in your first Tour de France, where did you finish, Stephen?
Finished 13th in my first tour.
Yeah.
But I got a hammering the day before the big mountain stage into Alpe d'Huez. I got a hammering. I lost 22 minutes on Alpe d'Huez alone. But then the second day, then I rode very well into Morzine, where I finished second with Robert Miller third. And after that, I started climbing well. So you have to kind of hammer yourself to actually get better.
And that is the general situation overall at the second time check. They've run it through the computer to show what it would be at that position. You see 41 hours, 14 minutes and 23 seconds. If they stop the race there, that will be the result of the Tour de France. But they're not going to, of course. We're not even halfway through it yet. And we've had, thank goodness so far, the first day without rain. That's probably going to tempt Providence, and certainly the forecast was it was going to rain later in the day and maybe snow tonight.
Well, it's actually spitting rain now. I've just been outside for a nature call, and it's actually starting to spit rain now. So the riders might just finish with a bit of rain.
But fortunately, it is a very twisty circuit as they come up here, and they do get shelter as well. The cameras haven't followed the rise all the way up, but there's a lot of tunnels further on up, and they just have been, in fact, one of the tunnels must be, I should think, about quarter mile long. They seem to be a lot. You can't really see the end of it either. It turns round a bit, and the lights come out in the sky, and it must be very gloomy now. I think, as far as the riders are concerned, it must be very cold to go in those tunnels.
Well, the body will be hot going up, so again, here's one of those tunnels that you're talking about. But it is, of course, a little cooler in there, but for the rider, it actually is better because it cools them down for that 100 or 200 meters that the tunnel lasts for. But the one thing, as they get further up, you can't see a lot of people here at this stage, but as you get higher up, as the road gets more open to the right-hand side, there's a strongish crosswind there. So, but the one thing is, there's an awful lot of people there, so they shelter the rider.
You tell me about the people. I came out to say last night, and in fact there was on the side of the road some Spanish people, and they were playing a Spanish version of a bagpipe. I don't know what the hell they actually call this instrument, but it's a Spanish bagpipe. And I thought they were playing a lament, like they play a lament late at night, but they weren't. They were quite spirited about the whole thing, and a real festive atmosphere. In fact, looking back last night, I don't remember a square inch of space or square metre where you could park a car. They were camping out, and they've had a cold night out there in the tents and in the cars and the camper vans to watch this time trial, which is once again the deciding point totally in the race, but it's certainly going to be a pointer for the future. Zulla on his way up towards the finish.
Zulia, of course, we saw yesterday, and for any of you who was following yesterday, the poor chap fell off twice in a space of about 10 kilometres, so he wasn't the best last night. He had a very sore knee. You see he has a bandage here on his knee, and he also had a sore in his ribs. But he's done a reasonably good ride today. I thought he would have done a little bit better, but he's you must remember yesterday the two crashes. Then of course he finished down with injury and losing a lot of time to Berzin and Rominger. So morally he cannot be 100%, and also definitely physically after the crash that he had, he's going to find it difficult today. But still he's put in a good time, Dave.
Yep, 54.29, just in third spot at the moment, just failing to pip Chris Boardman, and he rides for a Spanish team as well. And the Spaniards really having, I think, a bit of a triumph so far at the moment in one way or another, but I understand he broke his glasses when he fell off as well yesterday. We're looking back now at Berzin on his way up. By no means an easy ride, this one.
But you can see Berzin out of the saddle a lot. That's a sign he's going well. Like when you're not going too well, you do a lot of sitting in the saddle, but you haven't got the power to actually get on top of the gear out of the saddle. This morning when I was going up the course with his director sportif, he was telling me that Berzin here will ride a lot on the big chain. And as you see him here, he's still on the big chainring here. He reckoned he would use the big chainring a lot. So here's your severe anchor. We haven't seen him for a long time, Dave. So and it doesn't figure anywhere on our computer either. So he mustn't be on a good time either today.
Well, I suppose he's going to do what he can to protect that polka dot jersey. But there again, there are points in the King of the Mountains competition here today on the climb. I'm sure that one is at the 24-kilometre point, and the times will run back on that one. But certainly the polka dot jersey, which he got yesterday with some superb climbing, he's not all that far in front of the people around about him. So I think perhaps he's just saying, well, I'll hang on a bit for tomorrow and try on the stage to Sestriere, reinforce my position on his polka dot jersey.
Well, at the moment, Laurent Defoe, his Virenque's teammate, is only some 6 seconds ahead of him on GC, so I'm sure Virenque will not be too keen there, because Virenque does not like riding for anybody else, only himself. So having Laurent Defoe ahead of him on GC is going to make him a little bit maybe more ambitious now over the next few days, and look to getting away in a long break. But at the moment he is he's only like 37 seconds down on GC, but I think after the time trial today it's going to be a couple of minutes and 37 seconds.
Well, all of this then coming out to you live on Eurosport. My co-commentator Stephen Roche, myself David Duffield, absolutely enthralled with the racing we're seeing both yesterday and today. And here is Luttenberger, this new find for the Carrera Blue Jeans team. That's a team that Stephen rode for several years. And look at this, he's really just 7 seconds at 24 kilometres. This fellow's flying along here, and no doubt about it, being one of these light, lively chaps, knee-high to a grasshopper. They can climb up these mountains. You see by the size of the head on his bicycle here, he's a little short chap. They don't weigh very much, but they don't often time trial very well, and he's certainly showing us today he's prepared to have a go. So we got to look forward to this fellow as being one of the up-and-coming stars. I think he's only about 23 years of age as such, and he has already on his palmarès the fact that he won a stage in the Tour of Switzerland. He went on to win it overall. He's going to get very close indeed to Chris Boardman's time, and for a non-time trialist, I don't want to be disrespectful to him. He's a good mountain climber. This is a good performance on his part then. Chris's 54.23 has been pushed back, and he's taken over that second spot at the moment. Good ride by Luttenberger of the Carrera Blue Jeans team.
He's had an incredible season so far with the winning the Tour of Switzerland a few weeks ago, but we wouldn't have thought him to do such a good time trial today on this time trial course. But the other night I spoke to Boy Faber, his director sportif, and he told me that he has to look to him now for to do well in the mountains or in the GC, because Capucci is down, Pontani is gone, Zaina is gone, so they must count on this man Luttenberger now.
This is the position at the 24-kilometre point. Ulrich, Indurain, Luttenberger, Boardman. That's all going to be turned upside down as the later starters come up the road. They are riding in reverse order on general classification, and Luttenberger, who's arrived in 53.29, has moved up into second spot behind Indurain. But a lot of fast men still out there on the road, and this man is the fellow who's been putting the fastest times so far. Berzin through the first time check in 11 minutes and 50 seconds. Second time check, he was still in the lead, 26 minutes and 30 seconds. And at the 24-kilometre point, the next one we're going to have to put up, he certainly has got to go some here. We're looking along that lovely run across by the lake here, Duffield, heading in towards those tunnels I've been talking to you about.
Here we have Berzin here now on another part of the steep part of the course. So still looking very, very strong, Dave. One thing about time trialing in this kind of a circumstance, Dave, you cannot be too hasty in the start. You cannot go off like a bullet and then hope to finish like a bullet. Whereas it'll be interesting to see now Berzin as he gets to the top of the climb if he will die a little bit, because the first 9 kilometres he was like 14 seconds ahead of Bjorn Ries, the second place rider, which is an incredible time. He must have gone off from the line like a bullet. So it'll be interesting to see now if he's actually gauged himself just right so they can actually continue on at that pace.
There we are at 24 kilometres. Ries 45.08. Ulrich is now gone ahead of him because Ries was well down on Ulrich the first time check. He was 5 seconds slower than Ulrich at the first time check. He went ahead of him at the 15.7 time check by just some 9 seconds. So Ries is looking very determined indeed.
Well, I was saying earlier on, he told me last night, and I was quite taken back by it, because I thought to myself, well, Ries, he expects to be kind of for 2 anyway. He's hoping to beat, I thought, Roaming Year and Berzin. I thought, well, if he could be third, it's one thing. Then his injury in there as well. And he replied to me, no, Stephen, I'm going to win this time trial tomorrow.
We shall see. And over there on the right-hand side through the valley, you can see that the blockage they put across the valley to provide a big lake behind it, and the riders will be going past that lake. A lovely sight indeed it is, and in the background you can see the big crags of the Alps, and they're going to ride right up to the top of the Val d'Isère. Tomorrow we start from Val d'Isère to Siestra. We go straight out the back, and from Marchelle I could look up there in the mountain and could see the road they're going to go up right from the start tomorrow, and it's almost up the top of that peak you see in the distance there. But there's some real tough stuff here. You can't really believe what these hills are like, or mountains are like, or the roads are like, unless you come out here. And of course many of the viewers back in Great Britain at the moment will know these roads from the winter when they come up here skiing, because great ski resort, and these roads have been specially cut for the skiers. Many of the places where the riders finished, like Les Arcs yesterday, La Plan, where Stephen had his great day with Pedro Delgado, they've been specially put for the skiers, and now the cyclists are able to use these roads. Now here's a surprise, by the way. I've been looking and haven't seen much about Ugramov's time, because he's been a very good mountain time trialist in the past, and certainly in the Tours of Italy he's done well to hammer on the mountain sections, but today he's not too bright. 55.38. It hasn't been quite too active to me. I mean, yesterday I'd have thought he might have been a bit sharper than he was, or perhaps he's waiting a bit more until we get into some, like tomorrow for instance.
Ugramov himself is a man of heat, whereas the last few days we cannot say we've had the greatest of heat. As you see this young lad Ulrich here now in front of us, you can see how fast he's going, Dave. He's really, really impressive. Reese actually he's actually coming up on Reese, on Ulrich, not actually going to catch him, but you can see the tunnel here in front of us. That's where Ulrich is going into. But Ulrich has had a fabulous Tour de France this year so far for a young rider. I think one of the stars of tomorrow, definitely.
This is the flatter part of the course now. It does flatten out a little bit. The last 3/4 mile, 3 3/4 miles, that's some 6 kilometres. Oh, I didn't see that when we came by. I drove past and I looked down there, and that's amazing. How the heck did they do that?
Modern technology, Dave, maybe.
You mean they put it on the screen? It isn't there at all.
But I wouldn't have gone down and painted it anyway, I can be sure.
3 kilometres to go for Bjorn Rees, who is hammering along here. He's determined to win the race today, and it is fairly flat at this particular part of the course, heading in towards Val d'Isère. And he's absolutely motoring. He's throwing every caution to the wind. This is a long, long tunnel, by the way. He's going to disappear from our sight into the coldness of that tunnel. We're going to lose him on our pictures, and we go back to Berzin.
If you remember last year's Tour de France time trial, Dave, when Rees actually surprised everybody, he became very, very strong towards the end. So so far he's had a very, very good start. So if he maintains his pace right through, he's going to be on a very, very good time. I hope possibly even going to do what he said he would do, and it'll win the bloody time trial.
Well, here we are, Duffield coming through. He's in 8th spot. The fastest time still on your screen. Indurain, 52 minutes and 54 seconds. Yesterday, Miguel Indurain was very disappointed. He struggled up the mountain, and he was really blasted out by the rest of the ride. He finished in 16th place, 4 minutes 19 seconds down. He's thrown down the gauntlet today, Indurain, by showing that he's determined still to go for that yellow jersey. Indurain finished yesterday with a face as long as Livery Street. That's a Birmingham expression, by the way. He looked very, very sad indeed, but the weather's getting better. Indurain likes fine weather, and the sun, we hope, will come out and shine, and these riders will have from now on into the end of the Tour de France good riding conditions, good weather in which to race, and the Tour, which has been so eventful right up to now, will continue to keep us on the edge of our seats. And this young man here, Ulrich, really has been one of those. He's going like stink still.
No, he's for a tall rider, for a tall lad as well, Dave. He's done very, very well in the mountains, and especially in his time trial, he surprised everybody. People thought, well, the last few days he was in there because of he was strong enough to stay in there. But when you see the way he's riding here today in his time trial, uphill time trial, he's doing an incredible ride. He's doing the ride of his life. It'll be interesting to see now tomorrow how he rides up into Sestria. And of course, he's a great asset to have to Bjorn Rees, to have a rider like this, who is going to be he's actually 5th out at the moment on GC at 30 seconds down on Berzin. So having Bjorn Rees and himself up in the first 10, or possibly even the first 5, is going to make the bid of Telecom much easier work.
And there go, he crosses the line and just moves into 2nd spot. 53 minutes dead on his screen now. Indurain's still the leader, but the fast men coming up here, this young rider now showing that his great performance as an amateur was a pointer towards the future. He's continued to be great in the pro ranks, and that's a good ride. We're crossing the line, much to the applause of the people up here dressed in anoraks and woolly gloves, woolly hats, etc. Ski boots as well. In fact, I saw one of the chaps coming through Val d'Isère a bit back with a pair of ski boots on, all his ski gear, skis on his shoulder, and one of the chaps selling the hats and so on with the Tour de France said to him, pas de neige, no snow. He said, you want to get a bicycle. Well, this man's on his bike now. Reece is thundering along here. He's determined to win this time trial. He said so. He got so close last year. He was, in fact, with at the few kilometres to go in the Husserang last year. He took the lead with 49 kilometres covered, and he was 5 seconds faster than Indurain on the flat course. He died towards the end. He finished 12 seconds down. What's he going to do this time? The last time check we had, Reece was some 27 seconds faster than Indurain at the 24-kilometre time check, and he really is ploughing along here now, and there is the time to beat, 52.54, and he's out in the saddle. He wants to take first spot, but will he keep it to the end? Bjorn Reece giving it all he's got, hits the line in 52.28 and goes into the lead. It's seen, it's shown all over his face. Reece is now leading.
Fabulous ride, Dave, from this guy. 32 years of age now, Dave.
Well, I have to tell you, I've got all the information from Telecom, and somebody's nicked it, or it's gone somewhere, or perhaps I might find it here. Did I put it somewhere else? I've got the whole shooting match. I've got so many bits of paper. They'll say the handle's broken on my computer, namely my pilot bag, and I've got all the information from Telecom, and I could tell you, I'm telling you from somewhere else. I've got all the books here as well, but whatever it is, it's going very quickly indeed.
There we are, 24 kilometres to go. Reece was only 16 seconds behind Berzin. So it'll be interesting to see if Berzin maintains this incredible pace at the moment.
So we could see the whole of this race turned up on its end again, because time trial, and the great thing is the fast men come along last of all, and the moments of glory will be held, like Chris Boardman was the leader for so long, but bit by bit he's been pushed down, and there's that lovely lake you can see down there on the circuit, and that lake, I shall now check my little notes here, is called the Lac du Cheville, Chvil, specially made to ride water down the mountain. Of course, this part of the world is also very famous for raft racing and whitewater canoeing, apart from its skiing, its mountain bike riding, and also for the people who like to go hiking up in the mountains. And this man here then is looking very determined indeed. Rominger then 52 seconds at 24 kilometres. Well, he's got a lot of work to do here.
He certainly has. He'd be a very good climber in the mountains in the days to come, but against a guy like Berzin, you really have to wait on to see Berzin having a bad day. But at the same time, Dave, this is going to work into Indurain's favour, because if Indurain will just sit on now and let these guys fight out between themselves, maybe someday, I predict the day into Pamplona, for example, where Indurain would know the final like the back of his hand. Indurain can make the most out of the rivalry now between Berzin and Rominger.
And as Rominger comes in to sight down, Indurain's been pushed down to second spot, 52.54 by Bjorn Reece, who's now the race leader in a time of 52.28. So Rominger coming across the line now is just going to do it, or is he not? No, he's not. Oh dear me, 52.54. He's equal on time with Indurain. That is just unbelievable to split that one. Those two have come up the mountain that close. That's fantastic.
We just see Rominger there. For those of you who don't know about Rominger, he's actually the world hour record holder. He beat Indurain only last year, but he did an incredible time trial today. You see here, this is a provisional yellow jersey. If the race was to happen, was to stop there at the very moment, having Berzin still in yellow.
And Elana then at 24 kilometres, he was in fact 47 seconds down on Berzin. So Elana didn't look too comfortable further down there, the world road champion. And here he is coming through here. He was second in the Tour of Spain last year. He tried to win the Tour of Italy, but drifted back, went into third spot at the end of it all. And Elana with an unusual hat covered with pins also. Or was that just a decoration from Mappa as such? I think it's to do with the business they're in as such, but it looked like he got some of those, what they call those pins stuck on his hat. But at the moment then Olano is going to really struggle, I think, to stop in the top 5 places, but still a lot more good will come to this man in the future. I think he could be one of the forces in the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, the fact that Rominger now is put back into secondary position, but he'll probably be in third or fourth place on GC. Orlano will be fifth or sixth, so they're very, very well placed to actually attack Berzin if Berzin does hold the jersey, because Berzin has not got a great team. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next few days when the likes of Orlano attacks, or if Rominger attacks, who will actually ride after them. Berzin hasn't got a very strong team for the mountains, that's one thing sure.
Well, in fact, he's jumped to the second place. He's actually come back with a bang towards the end, Orlano. On that flatter part, he was way back in fifth spot, and he's now come through very quickly indeed. And this race is really turning on its head at the back end. That was a sudden recovery from Orlano. We thought he was struggling further back. He had been off the leaderboard. He was 3rd at 9.3 kilometres. He dropped to fifth after 15.7, fifth after 24 kilometres. He's come back with a bang, and now we're watching here Berzin coming down the finishing straight. He's been putting up the fastest times all the way through. 16 seconds faster than Berzin, than Rees at the 24 kilometre point. We're watching now to see if that 52.28, which is the time that Rees has put up. Orlano was only 10 seconds slower, but now Berzin looks very comfortable, very good indeed, and certainly he hasn't missed a beat all the way through.
He's going to put a minute or so into Orlano in this time trial, because Orlano started off 2 minutes ahead of him, so he's going to put a minute into him, at least a minute, which leaves him fairly comfortable then for the mountains. But as we all know, Dave, in the mountains a minute can go very, very quickly.
Well, they started today, Orlano and Berzin equal on time. They split it for the yellow jersey by 1/1600 of a second from the prologue time trial, but now Berzin just puts it out of doubt at all. 51.53, 35 seconds faster than Bjorn Rees, and that is a brilliant rise. So Rees didn't actually come out to get the success he thought he was going to get, but a second place is very respectable for Rees. But Berzin has thrown down the gauntlet. He is in yellow, the man who surprised everybody by his brilliant performance in the Tour of Italy a couple of years ago when he took the pink jersey, by his superb time trialling, by his great mountain climbing. He had a pretty tough year last year, I suppose one might say, good by most people's standards, but certainly he's shown today that he's in form for the yellow jersey. Amazing how Berzin also rode in the Tour of Italy this year, began to do badly, seemed to back off the pace, and now he's come into the Tour of France, and here at the Val d'Isère set the fastest time in the time trial to keep that yellow jersey, which he had just by the slender 1/1600th of a second down the bottom at Bourg-Saint-Maurice when he set up this morning. And there you can see it on your screen, the provisional result of the day's race. Chris Bourbon, a respectable time, still in the top 10, but 2 minutes 30 seconds off Berzin. But I'm sure Chris, if he keeps riding like this and can get the opportunity of stage victory, will move steadily up the general classification and learn a lot from it too, because you just don't come into a race like this one and challenge for top honours on day one. A few riders have done it, Stephen, but very few have they. You've got to learn it.
Well, it's all an apprenticeship. Like Chris, you must remember, has only come off time trialling, whereas I'm sure in the first few days of the Tour de France this year, if it hadn't been so dangerous and so windy, Chris would not have used up so much energy, because he's not used to riding in big groups. But it's all part of learning, it's all part of the apprenticeship. I think in the years to come he will do a lot better in the Tour de France.
And this man has really served his apprenticeship. Berzin taking the victory today, and that shows you provisionally on the general classification. He's now 43 seconds clear of Rees and 45 seconds clear of Orlano. Rominger back 1 minute and 8 seconds. Ulrich, that young man's doing great guns here, 1 minute 37 seconds back, and Luttenberger in fifth spot. He looks very, very happy indeed.
Some superhuman efforts are going to be required between Val d'Isère and Sestriere. Before they get to Montgenèvre and the final climb to Sestriere, there are two legendary cols to conquer, Liseron and Le Galibier. Live on Eurosport, a potentially critical day on the Tour. Val d'Isère-Sestriere, the 9th stage of the Tour de France, with David Duffield and Stephen Roche, tomorrow at 11 a.m. live.
With Coca-Cola.